Welcome to the Neurophilosophy Project. I am Dr. Bison. I'm a board certified neurologist, but nothing here is medical advice. The other day, I had a patient in the neurocritical care who regained consciousness after many days in coma. He wasn't aware he was in the hospital for that many days. That made me think, how do we actually measure a life? Imagine a patient stayed in coma for not a couple of weeks, but for 100 years, then wakes up, lives for 10 more days, and dies. How long did that person really live? Do we say 100 years or 10 days? And if we don't count those 100 years, what exactly are we measuring when we talk about lifespan? Today, I want to explore that question. But before we go further, we need to separate two very different concepts: time in physics and time perception in neurology. In physics, there is still an ongoing debate about what time actually is. Some physicists say it is fundamental, a basic property of the universe like space itself. Others argue it is emergent, something that arises from more basic processes like entropy or the relationship between different events. And there are even those who suggest time doesn't exist at all. That might be an illusion, a construct of our minds trying to make sense of a static universe with actually no time. So there are different opinions in physics. But from neurological perspective, there is no debate. The perception of time exists, but the perception of time, the thing that gives your life length, is not objective. It is subjective. Your brain stretches time and compresses it and distorts it. And it does that through chemistry. Neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin don't just affect mood, they shape how fast or slow life feels. When dopamine is high during novelty, anticipation, challenge, your brain increases its frame rate. More detail, more snapshot per second. Time feels denser, and in those moments, it often feels like it passes quickly when you are inside of those moments. If you are a traveler like me, I travel a lot. Um, think about your first day in a new country. Everything is unfamiliar. Your brain is trying to predict, to understand, to keep up. There is so much happening around you. But paradoxically, it also feels like it passes quickly. And yet, when you look back, those moments feel longer, richer, more alive. On the other hand, when you are bored, repeating the same routines, your brain records less, fewer frames, less novelty. Time drags in the moment, but disappears in the memory in the long term. Think about sitting in a waiting room for 20 minutes. It feels endless, but a year later, you don't even remember it happened. A week feels like a blur. A year feels like nothing. But there is a loophole in this paradox. Take the first example of exploring a new country which has high novelty and anticipation. Now imagine that same intensity, but replace excitement with a sense of danger, uncertainty, or fear. Suddenly everything changes, right? Time slows down in the moment. You feel every second. And later, it still feels long and vivid in the memory. So, yes, negative, novel experiences can feel long both during and after the experience. Think about a car accident or a near miss, like an almost a car accident while driving, a sudden medical emergency, getting lost in a dangerous place, or an unexpected confrontation that puts you on edge. If you have ever been in situations like these, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything slows down. You notice every single detail you would normally miss. Facial expressions, the sound of certain words, the feeling of a heartbeat. Even the smallest details stick in your memory forever. We also have brain structures related with time perception. We know, for example, suprachiasmatic nucleus that works like a master clock that influence other biological clocks we have that ultimately determines certain time cycles. Your brain operates in cycles, 24-hour circadian rhythms and shorter 90 minutes ultradian cycles. If you align your life with these rhythms, working in deep, focused intervals, exposing yourself to light at the right times, you sharpen your perception. You make time more precise. That is why, for example, if you go to Huberman Lab, to Andrew Huberman, he will tell you, let's utilize this knowledge for productivity to enhance focus and memory, which makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And if you are into this kind of stuff, I would recommend you to go and watch his stuff. But as you know, my channel is not a biohack channel. This is a philosophy podcast. Then why am I talking about all this? Now, let's connect this to something deeper. If your life is measured not by clock time, but by perceived time, then your lifespan is flexible. Not biologically, but experientially. You could live 80 years biologically and experience maybe 10, or you could live 50 years and experience what feels like 100. So now we arrive at a strange possibility. You can expand your life, not by adding years, but by increasing the density of experience. But all of these is based on the assumption that you are the same person who lived those experiences. What if you are not the same person you were yesterday? Not as a metaphor, not philosophically, but literally. What if a version of you died last night? We like to believe in continuity, right? Continuity by a stable self, a coherent identity, a single line connecting your childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. But that sense of continuity, that feeling of being the same person, is not a fact. It is a construction built from two things: memory of the past and prediction of the future. Your brain is constantly doing this, and we went over this in my previous episodes. If you haven't watched that, I would recommend you to go and watch my episode about the memory. But basically, brains do not record like a video camera. Brains are reconstructing what happened and simulating what comes next. And as long as that loop stays intact, you feel like you. But the problem is, you don't remember most of your life. You remember days vivid, and sharp. Weeks blur into hazy impressions, and years reduce to a few dominant scenes. Strange, isn't it? The longer the span, the less it seems to linger in the memory. So again, if you don't remember it, was it you who lived it? Imagine someone tells you you have lived for 100 years, but you don't remember it. You only remember 30, let's say. Let's say someone told you that you lived 1,000 years, but you don't remember it. Is that different from dying at 30 and starting again? Because identity is not stored in the body, it is stored in continuity. When continuity breaks, something ends. But something also persists. Your brain retains structure even when memory fails. Experiences leave traces in behavior, in preferences, in decisions. You are shaped by events you cannot consciously recall. So the person you are right now is influenced by lives you don't remember living. Lives from 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, from the time you were 4 years old, 2 years old. And if we extend that idea further, memory and identity may not be limited to the individual. Information is transmitted across generations, right? We already know that. Not as explicit memory, but as predisposition, tendencies, biases, constraints. These have some sort of genetical inheritance. You know, a lot of the ways you handle stress, take risks, or even your threshold for addiction aren't just random. A part of that actually comes from your parents, and it is not fixed. For example, if a woman becomes pregnant after gaining enough weight to become obese, her child's risk of developing obesity goes up. That is epigenetics. If an obese woman loses weight and then becomes pregnant, then her children's risk of developing obesity decreases. So your mom's lifestyle choices and behaviors literally shape your biology. Her conscious behaviors influence your conscious choices. And her own life model, how she thinks, reacts, and decides, is shaped by her parents too, right? It is like a chain of experiences and decisions passed down. Now, here's where it gets really wild. As humans, we share 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees. This percentage is 84% for dogs. Chickens, somewhere between 60 and 70%. Worms, 40 to 50%. And get this, an olive tree. You share 25% of your DNA with olive tree. Insane. Yes, you heard that right. Because when I first heard, it was hard for me to believe. But a quarter of your DNA is the same as an olive tree. Mind blowing, right? Now let's go even further. If you zoom out far enough, something even more fundamental appears. These similarities are not coincidences. They are signatures of a shared origin. Every atom in your body, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron, was forged in ancient stars that exploded billions of years ago. Some of them are there since Big Bang. The calcium in your bones once lived inside a star. the iron in your blood was born in a supernova. So when we talk about DNA, similarity between species, we are really just looking at a recent layer of a much deeper continuity. Life didn't appear in the universe. Life is what the universe does when matter becomes complex enough to store information about itself. And in that sense, you are not separate from what came before you. You are not even separate from what surrounds you. You are localized expression of the same physical laws, the same chemistry, and the same cosmic history unfolding through time. And for that reason, you are not just in the universe, you are the universe, organized into a form that can observe itself. So what defines you? Is it what you can consciously remember, or is it the accumulation of the influence? We have to answer that question because depending on the answer, we are either constantly dying or we are immortal. By the way, some of you have the expectation of me having the answer, but I myself don't know the answer. That's why I'm just thinking out loud here. And I want to brainstorm with you guys. I myself definitely feel like we are continuously ending and continuously continuing at the same time. But let me know what you think in the comments. And I'm going to build a small community where we brainstorm in a more interactive way. The link is going to be in the description for that community. Anyway, that is for that's going to be the end for today's episode. Thank you for being part of the Neurophilosophy Project. Reflect on this, and we'll go deeper next time.